Welcome to A Magical Life, Health, Wealth and Weight Loss. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, lead practitioner at Holistic Natural Health Australia and #1 best-selling author. In this podcast, I aim to give you practical tips on how to accelerate and sustain your health, increase your financial, spiritual and emotional wealth, and to look at something that haunts many of us needlessly, weight loss. Now, sit back and enjoy, because it is time for you to create and truly discover a magical life. Welcome back to A Magical Life. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, and today Eric Brotman joins us. Eric D. Brotman, CFP, is the CEO of BFG Financial Advisors with over 25 years of experience as a trusted advisor. He believes financial literacy is the key to well-being and is the author of multiple books on personal finance and the host of the Don't Retire, Graduate podcast. Eric's approachable and actionable financial advice has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes.com, Yahoo Finance, the Baltimore Sun, and others. You can learn more at www.bfgfa.com or about the Don't Retire, Graduate podcast at brotmanmedia.com. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks, Magic. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. You know, we hear a lot about finance, and certainly in this podcast, we ask different kinds of questions about wealth. But I really love this Don't Retire, Graduate. I think that just sounds intriguing.
Well, I believe that retirement in the traditional sense is terrible for you, for your health, for your well-being, for your sense of self. Retirement in its normal phase, the way people think about it, is really, it's retreating or disappearing or giving up. And if you look online at some of the various social media sites or professional sites, you've got folks who used to have these beautiful vitaes, these beautiful bios. They were involved with organizations and nonprofits and their businesses and their communities, and they were changing the world. And then it just says retired. And it might as well said deceased, because at that point that it looks like they're offering nothing. I just think that to go from a life well lived to daytime TV and shuffleboard is a horrible idea. And it makes more sense to graduate to the next phase of our lives and to do something amazing with what could be a half of our adult life or a third of our life on earth.
I love that. Let's get straight into my standard questions. I ask all of my guests these, and you've already alluded to the first one, and that is, what can your expertise do to accelerate health? Not just physical health, but also emotional and spiritual health.
I think money is a little bit like oxygen. And that is that if you have enough, you don't think about it. And if you don't have enough, it's all you think about. And so when it comes to money and when it comes to finance, it's not really about who has the biggest house or the nicest car or the fanciest stuff. That's not wealth. That's possessions. But to have a life well lived and to grow your wealth in lots of different ways, to me, means having enough of an abundance mindset that you're not stressing or having anxiety or worry about money. I think if we're worried about money, we're not able to do our jobs. We're not able to pay attention to our families or our social lives or our personal lives. It eats at you. And I think that kind of stress will affect you both emotionally and physically. And it's just awful for you. And so to have the financial literacy and the wherewithal and to understand how to do it allows you to control some of that and to live without some of those fears.
I've always seen in functional health that once you decide something, your body will find evidence to back it up. And you mentioned about retirement shouldn't be shuffleboard and daytime soaps. I think what I've seen in my clinic, and you know what I have this great theory of, is if you decide and make the action of retiring, in inverted commas, and doing nothing, your body will follow suit. And so it will start to slow down the processes needed for optimal health. Have you seen that as you've been teaching people?
100%. There are people who retire to something and people who retire from something. And the ones who retire from something literally are sitting around waiting to die. And they don't live very long and they don't live enriched lives. And there's only so many golf courses and so many vacations. You really need to stay engaged in life. And the people who retire to something, who have given this more thought than just the financial, they've thought about, I mean, we ask everyone on our show, what do you want to be when you grow up? And people look at us funny because they haven't been asked that since they were 7 years old and wanted to be a ballerina or an astronaut or something. And the reality is, moving towards something allows you to have goals that are worth celebrating, things to get enthusiastic and excited about and to share, rather than to say, gosh, this is what I used to be. That's a sad thing.
I just had a little giggle as you were saying, golf courses. I live near a golf course, and one of my neighbors is retired in the traditional sense. And I could swear if he's not playing golf, he's on his grass in his backyard, watching it grow, waiting to snip it down again with his mower. I think he mows about 5 times a week.
To me, that's not living, that's existing.
Exactly.
And I get it. People like golf and they have hobbies, and that's important. It's important to have hobbies, but it's also important to have adult communication and to have connections to people and to causes and to the environments that are important to you. It means being a mentor or a coach or a consultant or a writer. There's so many ways to make a difference, and some of them can be for profit or for income if you want them to be. And if you have enough money where you don't need the money, you can be a professional volunteer or coach. You can help. You can work with students and young people. You can help other seniors do what they need to do, because sometimes they're not in as good a shape as you are. And you can certainly spend time making a difference in the world and not just taking up space.
And when did our wisdom become irrelevant? Back in previous times, our seniors were looked to share their wisdom and their knowledge and everything they've been through in their life. And then we came up with this thing called retirement, where they were no longer valuable. How did that happen?
Well, I can tell you, because I have often shared that it used to be that the elders in any group had the largest tent, and they were the ones you went to with the biggest life problems. They were the ones who were most revered. In the 1840s, there was a German named Otto von Bismarck who created this retirement idea, and it was a way to put older people out to pasture. And they were literally told, you must retire. We're dispatching you essentially so we can get somebody in who's younger and can do a better job. And so it started then. Retirement is now, as a concept, almost 200 years old. It was a lousy idea then. It's maybe a worse idea now. Because, Magic, if you think about it, it used to be that you might work from 18 to 65, but people didn't live past 72. Today, you have folks who think they want to retire at 50 or 55 and could live to be 107. That's not sustainable. It's not sustainable financially for most people, but even if it was, what are you going to do for 30 or 40 or 50 years if you don't have a passion and a purpose? To me, that's just sad.
It is. Okay, on to our next question, which I'm guessing you're going to have some great tips because it's about wealth. What are your top 3 tips to creating wealth? Not just the financial, but also emotional and personal wealth.
I think there are a couple of things that successful retirees, and I'm putting that in quotes too, have in common. I call it the 3 secrets of the happiest retirees, and that to me is a perfect answer to your question. Number 1 is to be debt-free. To not owe anyone anything is an empowering thing. And that's not to suggest that all debt is bad. Sometimes debt is leverage for a home purchase or for a business or things. But consumer debt, spending more than you make and running up credit cards and everything is by itself always a bad idea. And frankly, I think most student loans are too. So to be debt-free is the first way to create wealth, is not to go backwards. The second thing that the happiest retirees have in common is that they have a purpose and a passion and a reason to get out of bed every morning. We've talked about that a lot already. But there's so many ways to define wealth. It's not just money. There's a wealth of experience. There's a wealth of living. There's so many ways to describe someone who is wealthy. And wealth is such a loaded term. What does it mean to be wealthy? Are you wealthy? Am I wealthy? I once heard, and I wrote in my book, Don't Retire, Graduate, I quoted Chris Rock, the comedian, because I just thought what he said was so funny and so poignant. And that is that he said, if Bill Gates woke up tomorrow with Oprah Winfrey's net worth, he'd want to jump out a window because he'd feel poor. And by any reasonable definition, both of those are incredibly wealthy people, but it's all relative. So I think the first thing is to be debt-free. The second thing is to have a passion and a purpose and a reason to get out of bed every morning. I think that is, for the happiest retirees, that's a big deal. And the third item, actually, and which is going to be right up your alley, is that you've cared for your own health. Because for people who have an enormous amount of money but aren't healthy, it doesn't matter. You can't enjoy your life, your existence, if you haven't maintained your health. And I happen to think it is much easier to stay healthy than it is to get healthy. In the same way, it's easier to stay wealthy than it is to get wealthy. So when you think about your health, it's not necessarily a great idea to wake up one day when you're 65 and say, you know what, I'd like to get healthy now. It's much better, not that that's impossible, but it's much better to just take care of your health all the way through your life so that there are the right habits and the right mindsets. And I believe wealth is exactly the same way. With wealth, if you do the little things and you do them early, you avoid debt and you pay yourself first and you contribute to various things and you have a plan, all of those habits over the course of your lifetime will add up so that you can not only become wealthy, but then stay there. And so to recap, the three secrets of the happiest retirees are they're debt-free, they've taken care of themselves and have their health, and they have a passion and a purpose and a reason to get out of bed every morning.
Some great tips there. And your final standard question is around weight. Many people battle their weight quite needlessly. We know that stress is a key influence in weight issues. So have you ever battled your weight? If so, how did you win the war? What can you offer the listeners who may be going through this? And I'm just going to add in my personal experience when I haven't had wealth, be it financial, personal, or emotional, my weight has risen. So that's something I've correlated with the stress of having less.
Well, some of it is the stress, but some of it's also, it's very expensive to eat healthy. I mean, there's a reason why fast food and cheap eats they're not good for you. And so people who are not in a position to buy the organic vegetables or fruits or to eat at a cleaner restaurant or to prepare better groceries and better meals at home are going to eat junk a lot of the time. And so I do think it's both the stress and the financial aspect of that. But to answer your question, I have battled my weight. In fact, I'm battling it now. So for you to say, how did I win the war? I am very much still in the trenches. And I work out like a fiend. And when I was 20 and 30, that was enough. And now that I'm in my 50s, it's extremely difficult. I work out really, really hard. But at Magic, I love food. I love good food. I am a foodie. I like to dine out. And I enjoy beer and wine, all of which add to caloric intake. And so while I don't consider myself obese, I probably am by definition, but I'm strong and I'm healthy and I'm fit and I'm trying to stay that way. And I'm trying not to abuse my knees and hips and joints by carrying some extra weight around. So I would say I have dealt with weight issues and battled it all my life, and it's not over. I'm still right here.
Great. Now that's my standard 3 questions. I really want to explore this don't retire, graduate that you write about, that you speak about, because I really think there is something to, we've got so much life experience by the time we reach retirement age, and that experience needs to be passed on, needs to be taught to other people. So tell us more about what you do and why.
Well, what we do as an organization, we do financial planning and wealth management for families, most of whom are multi-generational, where we're trying to pass on the legacy from families from one generation to the next. And these are not necessarily high net worth, wealthy families. And I put wealthy in quotes in lots of ways. We really do like to work with lots of different kinds of people. So we have a program we call Financial Planning for All, which is really designed to be an inexpensive way to get some solid, good financial advice. And we also publish a number of white papers and online courses and financial literacy tools, some of which are available for free to try to educate the public. I think at the end of the day, being financially literate is almost as important as being functionally literate to read and write. Because if you can't handle some of the financial decisions, they are daunting and you will be hurt by them. And it means you will make awful decisions, often emotionally, or you'll bury your head in the sand. There's lots of people who don't even open a statement or don't even contribute to something because they feel like they don't know how to do it. And it's about forming good habits. And so we work with clients all over the United States. And most are families who are, I like to liken them as the sandwich generation. A lot of them look like me. We've got parents who are getting up in age who we have to worry about. We've got kids to educate. We're working 50 and 60 and 70 hours a week, or building companies or enterprises, and we're busy. And so people like that who don't think about money can easily miss some really important details. And so taking a look at this, we use a lot of medical analogies and a lot of healthcare analogies because I do think they're very similar. And so to sort of be tongue in cheek, we are the primary care physicians for people financially. We do the physical exam. We look at everything, and then we determine which specialist someone might need. So in the medical world, that might be saying you need a cardiologist and a podiatrist, or a nutritionist and a yoga instructor, or whatever your mode of medicine is. For us, it might mean you need a mortgage advisor and a different bank, or you need to make some changes to your retirement plan or some of your insurances. And so at the end of the day, we really are trying to look at this holistically from 50,000 feet. And we help families with those big decisions, and sometimes with hard conversations between generations, between family members. Money is intimate. It's as intimate as medicine. We joke with people, there's no disrobing. No one has to wear a white gown with a hole in the back or anything, but you are functionally naked when you're sharing your finances and your fears and maybe your dreams, not only with your spouse or significant other or partner, but also potentially with your grown children, or just with your financial advisor. It's not therapy, but it is emotional.
Very true. Now, some people listening to the podcast may have, been through life journeys where they've kind of lost everything and, like a phoenix, have to rise up again from the ashes. I know that happened to myself post-divorce, especially with women, in the 40 to 50 age group. We can find that, they've pretty much have to start again. They've lost it all. So at a later stage in life like this, how do you suggest that people start putting the pieces back together?
You start with inventory. And that means you start with figuring out where you really are and being completely honest with yourself and transparent with your loved ones. You start by, like building any journey, you have to have a sticker on your map that says you are here. Where are you? What is the real condition? And don't lie to yourself and don't deceive anyone, because I believe it's important to have that true transparency and that true conversation. You start with inventory, you figure out where you are, and then you begin to dream about where you want to go. And then there's a path that can be drawn. It may not be linear. It may be exponential. It may be something that's got figure eights in it, because we all have peaks and valleys and different times in our lives. I think starting later in life, if you're committed to it, it's not that it's impossible. It's harder because time is not on your side in the same way. But you also have more wisdom, more life experience, and often more income. People in their 40s and 50s tend to earn more than people in their 20s and 30s most of the time. So even if you are starting a little later than you wanted to, if you haven't allowed your lifestyle to expand to the point that you're spending every dollar you make, or worse, you're spending more than you earn, if you have positive cash flow, you have the ability to build wealth, however slowly or quickly. And so if you're 40 or 45 and you're just thinking about getting started with this, number one, it's not too late. Number two, the first step is the hardest, and it begins with the inventory and then finding the right navigator. In the same way that I have a personal trainer to help me with working out, if I didn't have an appointment at the gym, I wouldn't go. That's just my own fallibility. I understand there's 100 things I'd rather be doing than working out, but it's important to me, so I schedule it. And the financial piece is very similar. If you have accountability partners and people who say, did you put away that $500 extra a month? Or did you sign up for your retirement plan? And are you taking advantage of your employer's matching contribution? Whatever they are, whatever the advice points are. Did you get your legal and estate planning done? Did you take your ex-husband's name off your beneficiary? I mean, all those kinds of things. And if you allow yourself to do it, even though the time frame is compressed, you often have more resources and can almost begin at a gallop rather than a trot.
Great. Now, we've covered a lot, Eric. Before I let you go, is there any other nuggets of wisdom that we haven't covered that you feel the listeners need to hear?
I will share one resource that's out there at getfinancialwellness.com, which is a white paper primarily for employers, but really it's for anyone, about why financial literacy and financial wellness amongst your employees is so important to not only to them, but to your company or organization. And that's really because if your employees come to work, or if your coworkers even come to work and they're worried about how they're going to make rent or pay a mortgage, they're not thinking about work. It's all they can obsess and think about. And so by giving your employees some tools, some advice, some counsel, and doing it in a way where they don't have to go to a coworker, employee, or heaven forbid, a manager or supervisor to do it, there's a lot of safety and comfort in those conversations, and it can really make a difference to the outcome for the organization by having employees thinking about their work instead of their personal finance. So I would say that's a spot that folks should check out. Even if you're not an employer, it is still, there are 10 steps to wealth building and reasons for financial wellness, and it's at getfinancialwellness.com. And it's free. It's a free download.
Wonderful. And we do love freebies, so thank you for that. Now,
of course.
Listeners, you can find Eric at brotmanmedia.com, and Eric's book, Don't Retire, Graduate, is available on amazon.com. Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
Magic, it's been a pleasure. It's been fun doing the show, and I love the work you're doing. And keeping people healthy and thinking about their health is so, so important. And wealth is a piece of it, but it's great that you're doing the work you're doing.
Thank you. And listeners, thank you for your time. Go forth and create your magical life. Thanks for listening today. Please subscribe to hear future episodes, leave a review, and share this podcast. Drop us a line at A Magical Life Podcast on Facebook and let me know what you would like to know more about. You can find us on Instagram at Holistic Natural Health, that's holistic with a W, or at www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au. That's where you'll access all sorts of articles, freebies, and more.